long story of our band of heroes. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca. And introducing Lando Calrissian. Big, new, sprawling space adventure in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. Coming to your galaxy next summer.
With the release of The Last Jedi right around the corner, I've been in a very Star Wars mood lately. And with Christmas right around the corner too, why not review my favorite Star Wars movie of all time? And one of my favorites to watch during the holidays, The Empire Strikes Back. And why do I relate The Empire Strikes Back with the holidays? Because snow. Everyone knows the story of the original Star Wars. Luke and friends rescue Princess Leia from the Death Star, fly back to it with some X-Wings, and blow it up. Since then, Darth Vader has been obsessed with tracking down the pilot that destroyed the Death Star after feeling his strong connection to the Force. These events are chronicled in the now official canon, in the Marvel Comics Darth Vader series launched in 2015, one of the best comics in recent years that I highly recommend, showing how Darth Vader found out who Luke Skywalker really was, and becoming enraged that the Emperor had manipulated him for all these years. After the Death Star exploded, the Empire attacked Yavin Base, forcing the rebels to evacuate and scurry through the galaxy looking for a new base. And that's what takes us to The Empire Strikes Back, as the rebels settled on what's quite possibly one of the worst planets they could have chosen, Hoth. A cold-ass world covered in ice and snow that was known to have temperatures dropping to below 60 degrees Celsius at night, and home to giant predatory beasts called Wampas. Hoth is a planet vastly different from anything we saw in New Hope, and that's one of the aspects of the Star Wars movies that I have always loved. With every movie, we get introduced to very different planets from what we've seen before, for the most part. The original started us with the desert planet of Tatooine, then showed us the more jungle-like Yavin by the end. Empire Strikes Back goes from Hoth to Dagobah, covered in a worldwide swamp, to Bespin, a gas giant that has a city in the clouds, all very different planets from each other. The beginning portion of the movie spends most of its time on Hoth, after a Star Destroyer launches Imperial probe droids to different planets, searching for the rebels, and one happens to land on Hoth, near an area where Luke is patrolling with his Tauntaun, furry giant snow lizards that the rebels domesticated to ride around. And I always thought the scene was hilarious. I understand it's juvenile and very immature, but since I was a kid, I always imagined that Luke ripped ass on his Tauntaun while riding it.
Steady! Hey, steady girl! Hey, what's the matter? You smell something?
Come on, I mean, what else could he have meant by that?
You smell something?
In reality, it was probably a lot less fun, and it was probably just smelling the Wampa about to attack Luke. Back in Echo Base, Han is getting ready to leave to go pay back Jabba the Hutt, since Jabba hired bounty hunters to track him down, and this causes some tension between him and Leia. Han has a thing for her, and she has a thing for him, but she's too stubborn to admit it. Watching Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher bicker and argue through much of the movie, like an already married couple, is hilarious.
Han, we need you.
We need?
Yes.
Well, what about you need?
I need. I don't know what you're talking about. You're a great help to us. You're a natural leader.
No, that's not it. Come on. Come on.
You're imagining things.
Am I? Then why are you following me? Afraid I was gonna leave without giving you a goodbye kiss?
I just assumed it's a Wookiee.
I can arrange that.
Might I have a word with you, please?
What do you want?
Well, it's Princess Leia, sir. She's been trying to get you on the communicator.
I turned it off. I don't want to talk to her.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Laugh it up, fuzzball. But you didn't see us alone in the South Passage. She expressed her true feelings for me.
What? Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy looking?
He tries so hard to go after Leia with little success, but eventually he lands it, showing that with enough persistence, even the biggest scoundrels in the galaxy can get what they want. Eventually everybody starts realizing that Luke hasn't returned and Han goes to look for him, taking his own Tauntaun into the quickly freezing weather. And after the Wampa attack, Luke was taken to its cave and tied up to the ceiling to be saved as a snack for later. And this scene is really interesting because it's a bit different than the original version. Empire Strikes Back came out a couple of years before I was even born, and like many adults my age, we really didn't get exposed to Star Wars until the special editions came out in the late 90s, creating a whole new generation of superfans. And with every new release of these movies, it's well known that George Lucas kept changing and altering things and fiddling around with the finished product, sometimes making really awful changes, other times adding some pretty cool stuff. In the original version of this scene, you never get a full view of the Wampa, you just see little bits and pieces of it as it walks towards Luke while he's trying to get his lightsaber from the ground. In the updated versions of the movie, it shows a full view of the Wampa eating Luke's tauntaun and coming towards him, and it looks great, putting an actor in a really well-made suit. These are one of the better additions that he's done in the overall Star Wars movies, adding in just enough to not make the scene feel like it was slapped in later on. I always thought the Wampas were cool, and they originally had a bigger part to play. If you dig into the deleted scenes, it shows that the rebels, for whatever reason, were keeping Wampas in captivity in the base, and one escapes, wreaking havoc as rebel soldiers try to take it down. It's actually a really silly scene, and it completely serves no purpose, but it is fun to go back and see what some of the original ideas were that didn't quite make it into the finished movie. There is one scene I do wish they would have kept that was genuinely funny. When Imperial troops enter Echo Base, C-3PO rips a warning sign from a door, assumingly saying something like, "Wampa's inside, watch out," sabotaging whoever enters. This whole ideas of a Wampa room in Echo Base even made it into the games. In Shadows of the Empire, you can enter that same room, and you see Wampas imprisoned inside, and you can let them loose and shoot at them. And in the Star Wars Trilogy arcade game, you can also go into that room. All this from a deleted scene that wasn't even in the final movie. I love it. Going back to Luke, as he escapes from the Wampa cave, he collapses in the freezing weather, seeing a vision of Obi-Wan telling him to go to the Dagobah system, to train with Yoda, as if that's what he should be worried about at this exact moment. Why couldn't Obi-Wan have appeared to him at a more convenient time when he's not doing anything, like when he's resting at night or sitting down to take a dump? He waits until he's almost dead of hypothermia to give him very important instructions. Luckily, Han finds him, and his tauntaun collapses and dies, so he grabs Luke's lightsaber and slices it open to stick Luke inside. That's disgusting, being stuffed inside the carcass of a dead animal, and it's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie.
But it'll keep you warm till I get the shelter up.
Man, Dagobah.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
I used to have this tauntaun figure that had the stomach part open, and you can actually bend the flaps backwards to stick Luke's figure inside, like in the movie. And I don't know if it was the rubber that the stomach part was made out of, but if you opened it up and put your nose in there, it actually smelled bad. Han and Luke get picked up the next morning and get taken back to base, where Luke is getting fixed up by medical droids. And this might be terrible to say, but him being attacked by a Wampa was actually pretty convenient. You might notice Mark Hamill's face looks a bit different from A New Hope. Before filming this movie, he actually got into a car accident and he needed some reconstructive surgery done on his face. So the Wampa attack is a perfect, unexpected explanation for this. Oh, and the famous kiss scene. Spoiler ahead. Even though just about everybody on the planet probably knows this already. Luke and Leia are twins. Twins, as in brother and sister. Behind the scenes, George Lucas has always talked about how he's planned all these stories years in advance, but it's clear that some things he did make up as he went along. By this time, I doubt he was planning on making Luke and Leia brother and sister, as evidenced in another deleted scene where there's even more flirtation between the two, and another almost kiss. I don't know. Maybe he decided they were related halfway through writing the story and forgot that he had them kiss earlier. Who knows? And it was only a matter of time before the Empire found the rebels, but the Empire appeared too close to the planet, alerting them, which pissed off Darth Vader, and he blamed Admiral Ozzel for the mistake. And Darth Vader really shows his badassery here. In the first movie, he used Force Choke from a couple of feet away, but when Admiral Ozzel pays the price, Vader does it through his widescreen TV from the comfort of his own Star Destroyer man cave. Damn.
Admiral Ozzel came out of light speed too close to the system.
He felt surprise was wiser.
He is as clumsy as he is stupid.
Lord Vader, the fleet has moved out of light speed and we're preparing to...
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Captain Piet.
Yes, my lord.
Make ready to land our troops beyond their energy field, then deploy the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. You are in command now, Admiral Piet.
And then he promotes Piet to Admiral. And you can just see in Admiral Piet's face, he is not happy about his promotion. He's just like, shit, I was gonna quit tomorrow. Being a higher up in the Empire probably has the least job security in the entire Star Wars universe. You're almost guaranteed to get choked out by Darth Vader at some point. As the Empire's getting ready to attack the rebels, they're on the ground trying to plan a strategy to get off the planet. And here's a little Star Wars Rebels fact. This guy here that's talking to Leia is called Hobby. He's the same guy that leaves the Empire and joins the Rebels with Wedge. If you haven't seen Star Wars Rebels, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's always fun seeing these little connection with these lesser-known characters from the movies. And this is where the Battle of Hoth takes place. I really think this is my favorite battle in all of Star Wars, and it's depicted in so many Star Wars video games. It's such a cool battle. Before it starts, there's this ominous feeling and this silence as the rebels see AT-AT walkers in the distance. And then all hell breaks loose. The walkers are making their way towards the rebel shield generator to blow it up. The rebels are all panicking, loading up evacuation vehicles as they fire ion cannons at the Star Destroyers in space, disabling them so X-Wings could get the evacuees out of there. Snow speeders flying around trying to avoid AT-AT fire as they shoot cables at their legs to trip them.
One more pass. Coming around. Watch.
Detach cable! Cable detached!
And I love how they mention how impenetrable this armor that the walkers are made out of is, yet the second one falls on the ground, it explodes with a couple of shots.
That got him!
I feel bad for the rebels on the ground too. These guys are absolute cannon fodder. There is no chance for escape. For a movie released in 1980, the Battle of Hoth looks amazing. This is a time before everything was made with CG using a computer, requiring the hard work of an entire team of people working together. The talent that it needed to make it look like a believable, huge-scale battle is impressive. All the walkers and the speeders flying around were these little models made to scale that took about 9 months just to design and to build. Most of the backgrounds were actually really well done paintings. The snow was made using baking soda and microscopic glass bubbles. Exploding snow speeders were models tied to strings and let loose in front of a blue screen. The walking animations of the AT-ATs were all stop motion, requiring them to be moved no more than a fraction of an inch between movements to make the movements look realistic and smooth. The amount of work and attention to detail used to create the Battle of Hoth is an art form in itself. Near the end of the battle, Luke gets shot down, and poor Dak, Luke's partner in the snowspeeder, he's unconscious, and Luke barely tries helping him as an AT-AT steps on him, crushing him to death. Look at that. He didn't even check his pulse or anything. He just kind of jiggled him a little, and then he was like, okay, well, he's dead, bye. And like any badass Jedi trainee, Luke takes on the walker single-handedly, destroying it. And this is where The Empire Strikes Back really gets going. There's multiple storylines happening all at once from different corners of the Star Wars universe as the characters all split up. The Rebel base is lost and Han decides to take Leia and escape on the Millennium Falcon. And he gets stuck traveling with C-3PO, who never shuts his mouth, and Han clearly doesn't get along with him.
Excuse me, sir. Might I inquire what's going on?
Why not?
Impossible, man. Captain Turner. Captain Turner. Sir, might I suggest that you...
Sir, it's quite possible this asteroid is not entirely stable.
Not entirely stable. Oh, I'm glad you're here to tell us these things. Chewie, take the professor in the back and plug him into the hyperdrive.
Sometimes I just don't understand human behavior. I believe, sir, it says that the power coupling on the negative axis has been polarized. I'm afraid we'll have to replace it.
Well, of course I'll have to replace it.
Sir, I've isolated the reverse power flux coupling. Surrender is a perfectly acceptable alternative in extreme circumstances. The Empire may be gracious enough.
Thank you.
While they're escaping Hoth, they run into an asteroid field while getting chased by TIE fighters and looking for a place to hide. And I gotta say, I don't know how the Empire does their TIE fighter flight training, but it's not effective at all. The Falcon is flying easily through the asteroids, dodging obstacles and fitting through tight spaces, as the TIE fighters try to do the same. I mean, look at the shape of your ship, dude. Clearly you're not gonna fit with those side wings. Han and friends eventually find a big hole in an asteroid and hide inside, evading the Empire. While all of that is going on, Luke flies to Dagobah with R2-D2 and crash lands onto the swamp planet, probably regretting that he paid attention to his hallucination while he was freezing to death. And on Dagobah, he meets the old Jedi Master Yoda, and he is immensely entertaining. As he pretends that he's not a Jedi Master, he annoys the hell out of Luke by being overly curious and taking all his crap.
Put that down. Now we... Hey! It's my dinner! Hey, get out of there! No! Hey, you could have broken this. Don't do that. Oh, you're making a mess.
Yoda looks fantastic in this movie, once again requiring huge talent to make a puppet that was believable as a living being. Just the expressions on his face alone look so realistic, it's easy to forget that it's just a puppet while you're watching the movie. And it sure as hell beats the shitty expressionless one used in The Phantom Menace, which was so bad that it was eventually replaced in later releases with the CG Yoda that was used in Attack of the Clones. And when I was a kid, I always imagined that Dagobah was a prehistoric Earth. I mean, look at this. You see a snake. You see a Komodo dragon. Those are Earth creatures. It has to be Earth. And even the opening titles say a long time ago. Just ignore the part where it says in a galaxy far, far away, and the years of detailed Star Wars lore that implies humans originated in Coruscant, and my theory makes perfect sense. Luke discovers that Yoda is the Jedi Master he's been looking for, and just like his father before him, he wants to rush in and do everything the easy way.
Much anger in him.
You are reckless.
So was I, if you remember.
He finishes what he begins.
I won't fail you. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Yoda shows Luke how to use the Force to balance himself and the objects around him, even making Luke's crashed X-Wing float out of the swamp after Luke starts to lose faith in his own abilities as a Jedi. And as part of his training, he also enters the Dark Side Cave, a cave where hundreds of years before the Clone Wars, a Dark Jedi was killed and his evil energy was absorbed into the cave, tainting it with the dark side. So now visitors to the Dark Side Cave experience their darkest fears and have visions of the past and their possible futures. So Luke sees Darth Vader and the path that he can take if he's not careful. Back on Darth Vader's Star Destroyer, we get a glimpse of Darth Vader's head without the mask on for a quick moment. When I was a kid seeing this movie for the first time, this scene caused my friends and I to constantly speculate as to what happened to Darth Vader. We had so many conversations and we came up with all sorts of crazy theories amongst each other, one of them being that he fell into a volcano fighting Obi-Wan. Unsurprisingly, that was fairly close to what actually happened. This is how you do a great movie villain. You keep him mysterious, giving audiences only a glimpse of what's underneath the mask. If this movie was made today, it would probably be filled with flashbacks showing what happened to get Darth Vader into that suit. I find that today's movies in general have no mystery anymore, rushing to explain everything or spoiling everything in trailers. And Darth Vader also has a meeting with the Emperor through a hologram, as they conspire to find Luke and turn him to the dark side. This is one of those scenes that's been drastically changed over time. When it was filmed, Ian McDiarmid hadn't been cast as the Emperor yet, so nobody was sure what he would really end up looking like. In the original version, the Emperor was actually played by American actress and painter Marjorie Eaton under heavy makeup, and they even superimposed chimpanzee eyes over her eyes and darkened her eye sockets to create a more unsettling image. It's creepy as hell, but it looks and it sounds totally different than the Emperor we know and love.
He would become a powerful ally.
Yes. Yes. He would be a great asset. Can it be done?
For the 2004 DVD release, Ian McDiarmid was asked to film the scene while in his Revenge of the Sith makeup, making him look much closer to the Return of the Jedi version, although not exactly. And they also added in an Anakin Skywalker name drop. I know many people are against making big changes like this in the classic Star Wars movies, but revisions like this make sense to make it more consistent when watching them all back to back. And Darth Vader's plans involve using Luke's friends to draw him out, and he hires a group of bounty hunters to track down the Millennium Falcon, introducing viewers for the first time to some of the most popular side characters in Star Wars lore, such as Bosk, Dengar, IG-88. All the bounty hunters are awesome, but the most popular by far being Boba Fett. He's always been one of my favorite characters in the entire universe, although he really doesn't have much screen time between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. If you add all his screen time together in the overall saga, it comes down to a couple of minutes at most. But his character design is so well done that he has this awesome presence in the universe and reputation as the most badass bounty hunter.
No disintegrations.
As you wish.
Seeing him face to face with Vader is even cooler if you've read the Star Wars Dark Horse comics that pitted the bounty hunter against Darth Vader and stands his ground, impressing Darth Vader and earning his respect. Yeah, all that is legend stuff now and not in the official canon, but I don't care. I still like to think of it as part of the overall backstory. It makes it more interesting. He was also added into the special edition of A New Hope, but his first real appearance was in the cartoon portions of the Star Wars Holiday Special, and Boba Fett did get slightly altered for later editions too, having his voice changed completely.
Skywalker.
He's no good to me dead. He's no good to me dead.
The new voice matches the clone troopers from the Clone Wars, since Boba Fett was a clone himself. Obviously, this wasn't even thought of yet when the original Empire Strikes Back was made. And back on the asteroid where Han and the gang were hiding, they realized that they weren't hiding in an asteroid at all, but the insides of a giant space slug. That's ridiculous, yet amazing. How does this thing survive in space? What does it eat? How does it reproduce? But I guess logic doesn't make a whole lot of sense when it comes to Star Wars. And I thought this was hilarious here. One of the Star Destroyers gets hit by an asteroid, and this guy in the hologram that was in there disappears while everyone else just ignores what happened to him. The Millennium Falcon is found by the Empire again. It sticks to the back of one of the Star Destroyers, and then escapes when they get rid of their trash, with Boba Fett following closely behind. Darth Vader is not happy at all that the Falcon escaped, and Captain Needa takes full responsibility. And what happens when Darth Vader is your manager, and you give him bad news? A. He promotes you. B. He does nothing. Or C. He force chokes you. Correct answer?
Apology accepted, Captain Needa.
C. Force chokes you. As they escape, Han decides to go hide out for a while on Bespin, where his old friend Lando Calrissian is running an illegal mining operation from Cloud City. And Billy D. Williams does a great job bringing the charming Lando to the big screen, and equipped with a fantastic smile. And Cloud City is another location updated by the special editions. This is what Cloud City looks like in the original version. It's more enclosed, whereas the special edition opens up the city more, which actually fits a city in the clouds better, giving the citizens a view of the sky surrounding it. And they also added a couple of CG shots of the city, shots of the cloud cars flying around. And Han and company have their own troubles while they're hiding there. C-3PO gets lost like an idiot and gets blown to pieces, forcing Chewbacca to find him and put him back together. And unknown to them, Boba Fett had already tracked them down, telling Darth Vader where they were and forcing Lando to betray them.
We would be honored if you would join us.
On Dagobah, Luke starts getting visions that his friends are going to be in trouble, so he decides to rush off to Cloud City and face Darth Vader. And Darth Vader uses Han Solo to test out a way to freeze Luke and deliver him to the Emperor. So his friends watch him get frozen in carbonite, where he stays in hibernation. As Boba Fett carries away his prize to get his Jabba the Hutt paycheck, he spots Luke and fires at him, and then escapes with the frozen Han Solo, setting the stage for Return of the Jedi. And Lando changes his mind, freeing Leia and Chewbacca, essentially joining the Rebel Alliance. When Darth Vader and Luke meet for the first time face to face, at least in the movies, it's epic. Darth Vader just looks like this dark, omnipotent presence, and Luke has been through some fresh Jedi training, but very incomplete, and they clash as he tries to get Luke to fall into the carbonite freezing chamber. What I really enjoy about this fight is that it feels like an actual sword fight, with Luke trying to hit Vader and struggling to defend himself against his blows, versus the lightsaber battles of the prequels where they looked very flashy, but sometimes they felt almost too choreographed at times, coming off as performances instead of actual battles. Empire Strikes Back does a great job showing how powerful Darth Vader really is, easily showing Luke how unprepared he was to face him, just like Yoda warned him. And then the most famous line in all of Star Wars.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
In today's world, surprises like this are almost impossible to keep secret. But back then, this was kept heavily under wraps, even from the cast themselves, to avoid the big secret from coming out before the movie hit theaters. The actor inside the Darth Vader suit actually read the line in the script stating, "Obi-Wan killed your father," not "I am your father." James Earl Jones inserted the line "I am your father" later on, when his voice was dubbed over the film. The only person that knew the true line was the director of the movie, Irvin Kershner, George Lucas, and Mark Hamill, who was only told moments before he had to go shoot his reaction. Everyone else in the crew found out in the theaters, along with the rest of the world, in one of the greatest plot twists in movie history. After finding out the truth, Luke throws himself from the platform, falling through a garbage chute and hanging onto an antenna while suffering a missing hand. A truly terrible situation. But he reaches out to Leia with the Force, and they turn around to pick him up on the Millennium Falcon, escaping Bespin. And Darth Vader reaches out to his son once again to try and bring him to the dark side.
Luke.
Father.
Son, come with me.
Why didn't you tell me?
And then they escape from the clutches of the Empire. And I love Admiral Piet's face here, just hoping that Darth Vader doesn't choke him out. Luckily, Darth Vader's too distracted by Luke's escape to force choke at the moment. Luke gets a new robot hand just like Anakin Skywalker does during the Clone Wars, and the group gets ready to go rescue Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt. Empire Strikes Back is not only the best Star Wars movie ever made, but one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. Telling a heavy story with multiple character arcs, and it's the first movie I can remember watching where the bad guys completely won. The Rebel base was lost, Luke failed to defeat Vader, Han Solo was taken. This is still something you don't commonly see in movies today. Audiences are so used to the good guys winning by the end, and movies being tied up cleanly with a nice bow. If you haven't seen The Empire Strikes Back, you're really missing out. But I expect that if you've watched this video through the end, you're probably a Star Wars fan like myself already, and have seen it a billion times. So go watch it a billion times more. If you enjoyed this review, leave me a like and a comment down below with your thoughts. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter. This is Fabian. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.